First Carolina Panthers loss of the year came in the first game of the year, unfortunately. 34-30, Las Vegas Raiders come away with a very entertaining victory. This was a great game to watch. Just came up a little short for the Panthers.
The defense didn't stop them at all. We were so close.
Yeah, I mean, it was back and forth the whole way. I think it's 7 lead changes, they said. Was hoping for 8 there at the very end. Questionable play call. I mean, let's talk about it.
There's quite a few questionable play callings on offense.
Let's talk about the big one, right?
The elephant in the room.
4th and 1.
4th and inches. Don't even say 1. I mean, this was
all right.
Maybe it was 12 inches.
Technically 4th and 1. Well, 12 inches is
a foot, not a yard.
Okay. True. 4th and 1 foot. Maybe a little more. And you don't go to McCaffrey, who's done – I mean, if you're going to rush, just rush with McCaffrey. He's gotten 3 yards every single time he's done it on that drive. He can get a foot.
He dominated that whole quarter. Like, he was doing okay up until that quarter. And then that quarter, he looked like McCaffrey again.
Well, they finally started giving him the ball.
Exactly. First of all, what took him so long?
6. I saw the stat in the game. The first 6 drives, 9 total rushes.
That's not the way we should game plan.
No. And then once they figured that out, then they score 15 points in a row. They take the lead. Defense unfortunately couldn't hold the Raiders. But yeah, I don't know why you go Arma there. You know, he's had 1 rush the entire day up to that point for nothing. And he gets stuffed.
Well, I mean, he's
not shifty.
He got that 3rd and 1 yard. And so you did it once. I get it. Good job. Yeah. But it's not going to surprise him again on this down.
Just like the announcers were saying.
You're going to your best player.
That's exactly right. Just like the announcers were saying, give it to your best player, right? Or, bootleg. Do something. Don't do what they're expecting you to do.
A QB sneak there. Bridgewater showed some wheels. I was kind of shocked during this game. I was like, ooh.
Well, I mean, you saw the way they were lining up. Like, they were fully expecting a run straight up the middle, and that's exactly what the Panthers gave him.
All you got to do is get that foot. Get the ball over that foot, pull it back in. That's first down.
I mean, we've seen it 1,000 times. McCaffrey, given the ball with a running start, he'll just jump over the line. He can get a foot. I mean, the game's on the line at that point. That is the game.
Exactly.
And you're in scoring position. I mean, you're right.
This isn't college school in Brady. That defensive line is good. They're really good. They're professionals. They know what's coming. You know what's coming. Our O-line is not going to be the better players. Just our O-line is Let's be honest.
I mean, even if you are going to run it, just run it with McCaffrey. That's it. Just run it with McCaffrey. Let's look at the positive though. Like the offense looked pretty good. Bridgewater, he was off with his timing on the receivers, a lot of the throws, which we expected, right? I mean, it's week 1. There's no preseason games. There's not a lot of time, unfortunately, for Bridgewater to make that connection. But he made some really good throws, and the receivers made some really good catches. That catch that DJ Moore made in the 4th quarter where the ball was tipped, went straight through the defender's hands, and then DJ Moore still caught it. I mean, the announcers were giving Bridgewater praise for that throw. That was a pretty poor throw. Should have been intercepted, but DJ Moore, what a great catch.
I agree. Bridgewater played really well. I mean, the whole offense played really well. They put up 30 points. Again, Vegas Raiders last year they didn't have that great of a defense, but this offseason they really focused on improving it. And player-wise, they did good. So I'm just frustrated with the play calling. And then there was a couple 3rd down and longs. Instead of like even attempting anything past the first down, they did like bubble screens and stuff. It was just really dumb play calling at that point.
Yeah,
And
I
when
don't
you
know.
knew you were in a shootout, that defense couldn't stop a nosebleed.
And that's the thing is the defense just wasn't stopping the Raiders at all. I actually thought that most of the coaching throughout the day was pretty good. I thought the
Mhm.
time management was pretty good. There at the very end with 8 seconds left, I mean, you're not going to win anyway, but I thought that they could have at least attempted, doing the lateral play.
Mhm.
They could have done something there. But, I mean, pretty disciplined overall, except for that DJ Moore unsportsmanlike conduct there.
And you can't play.
That was kind of a big deal.
Well, luckily we still scored on that drive, a
Yeah.
touchdown, but you can't blame the coaches. The coaches tell a guy that's just on DJ Moore.
Well,
He has to play smarter.
I was just saying overall the Panthers were pretty disciplined.
Mhm.
Very few penalties. Actually, I don't even know how many penalties we had, but let me see.
And
5
by the way,
penalties for
this
the
is
Panthers.
instant reactions.
Yeah,
The game just ended 5 minutes ago. if that.
Five penalties for the Panthers for 65 yards. So, you don't like the yardage, but 5 penalties is pretty good. And then
Yeah,
no
that
turnovers.
Whitehead interception is a majority of that where he didn't need to have an interference. We had him stopped on that touchdown drive.
Yeah. And by the way, Rasul Douglas, I thought he played pretty well when he came in for Jackson.
Yeah. It looks like you're going to win that bet because it looks like now Eli Apple's on injured reserve and Dante Jackson didn't return. We're going to be starting probably Troy Pride and Rasul Douglas next week.
I thought Rasul Douglas played pretty well, for being on the team for like a week.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he looked pretty good. Troy Pride, up and down day.
Not great. Rookie.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Let's continue with the positives here. McCaffrey, over 100 total yards, 2 touchdowns. When they finally started going to him, he made it work. He made the offense go,
And we've seen it multiple times before. That's what he does.
Robbie
he just
Anderson.
Gets better with more touches.
Right. Robbie Anderson, kind of a revelation. 6 receptions, 115 yards, that big touchdown where he just ran a perfect route, made a guy miss, and got the touchdown.
Yeah.
So
that was probably Teddy Bridgewater's longest throw of the game, too.
Oh, easily. And up until that point, I was kind of like, why aren't they at least – they've got all this speed. Why aren't we throwing it deep and at least testing these corners?
The corners were young on Oakland or Las Vegas, so I don't understand why we didn't attempt that more earlier in the game. Did they just know the defense couldn't stop them, so they wanted to give them a rest?
Well, you also have to think about it like this. This is the first time that a lot of these guys have played with each other.
Yeah.
So I don't really mind the kind of getting into the flow of the offense, some short passes for the first half. I would have liked to see McCaffrey more involved in the first half, but I really didn't mind sort of how the game plan was progressing. Towards the end there, when it obviously turned out to be a shootout, I was hoping that they'd go deep a little more, and they finally did. DJ Moore looked okay. Had 9 targets, but only 4 catches. A couple of catches that probably he should have made.
Yeah, I think he had a couple
But I think
drops.
that's timing. Yeah, and I think a lot of that was timing. That you could see the pass was like a 6 inches behind where it should have been, right? And they'll get better with that as the season goes on with the timing.
And then he had that drop in the end zone too, where he had that quick slant. We ended up getting a touchdown with McCaffrey, but again, it hit his hands and bounced down.
Yeah. Nothing out of the tight end. I knew this was going to be a problem where the tight end is just not a factor in the passing game. Ian Thomas had 1 good play, good catch. Manhurts had 1 catch. Ian Thomas ended up with 2 catches, but just nothing out of that position really.
Well, I don't think they use that position that often.
I think they don't use it because they don't have anybody there. They don't have any good players.
I saw Seth Roberts out there. That's our 4th receiver quite often. I think they were lining up with more receiver sets than you were expecting. I don't think it's a tight end heavy offense. I just don't
Yeah.
think that's the way
No,
they
I
scheme.
don't think it should be a tight end heavy offense, but if they had a playmaker at tight end, I think that you would see them have more plays for a tight end.
I
That's all
don't
I'm
know.
saying. It's nice to have that guy as a safety outlet. You know, it was great for Cam to have Greg Olsen on
But
third
this
down.
offense doesn't run that way. I mean,
That's
the
because
safety,
they don't have the player.
No, they're running an offense where DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson are the safety valves. Look at it.
And you're basing this off of one game.
Yes, you're
with
absolutely. And you're basing
shit at
it off
tight
one
end.
game.
No offense, but shit at tight end. Like there's nobody at tight end that you could even trust. That Bridgewater could trust.
I mean, how many targets did they have? That's the point. Like the offense
3.
doesn't scheme up. Exactly. And they had 3 receptions. This offense is not going to scheme.
And you're saying
it's
a game plan thing. I'm saying it's a lack of talent that forces the game plan to be that way. I guess it really doesn't matter. They're not going to go to them.
I mean, you keep harping on this tight end position. It doesn't matter at this point. I mean,
I think it does matter. I think it's a big deal. I would love for them to still make a move and get a tight end in here. I think it would help the offense.
Well, let's actually talk about defense because the defense sucked.
I don't want to talk about the defense.
The defense sucked. They couldn't stop anything. I think they had 2 punts this game, and one of those was on the first drive, a 3-and-out.
Yeah, 2 punts. Yeah, no sacks for the defense. By the way, offensive line held up well for us too. They only had 1 sack. I thought Teddy had some decent time. But yeah, back to the defense. No sacks, no interceptions.
Very, very little pressure. I was so disappointed. The whole defensive scheme is based on pressure. I know they get the ball out quick, but even when they had long pass plays, he had tons of time. Derek Carr was sitting back there, writing his manuscript, and then decided where he'd go to ball or throw it away. I mean, I think 1 or 2 of the times we actually finally got close to him, he just got rid of the ball because it wasn't quick pressure. That's got to shape up. This defense is built around that pass rush, and we got none of it. And then KK Short and Derek Brown, I mean, I thought our rush defense was going to be better. I mean, Josh Jacobs is a really good back. Don't get me wrong. But 3 touchdowns running the ball, 93 yards and 25 carries. Yeah, it's better average-wise than last year, but I mean, there are certain plays that it was 3rd and 1 or, in goal, and you knew they were going to him, and they didn't even lock him up.
Yeah, I mean, as a team, the Raiders rushed for 133 yards off of 31 carries. So average of 4.3, which that's average.
It's better than the 5.1 or 5.5 that we gave up last year.
Better than the 156 yards that we gave up last year, but still not good. And then Josh Jacobs also added 4 catches for 46 yards. That's something we talked about in our preview, was to look for him in the passing game, and they definitely tried to get him more involved there with 6 targets, second on the team in targets, actually. I think this game probably may have looked different had Henry Ruggs not gotten hurt in the first half, because he was dominant against the Panthers. I mean, they couldn't stop him.
He had 3 receptions for 55 yards.
Yeah.
And one of those was for 45. So he had 2 receptions and 10 yards. I mean, I don't see how dominant he was.
Until he got hurt, Jerry. He got hurt early in the game, and he got hurt in
the mid-second quarter. I don't think.
Okay, that's pretty early in the game. What did you not see that the rest of us saw? He was tearing us up. We could not stop him.
He had 3 receptions. I don't think that's tearing us up. Yes, he had one
Jerry,
break.
He had 3 receptions in a quarter and a half. Extrapolate that out. That's like 8 receptions for 150 yards. I mean, he was killing us.
If you take out that one play, he had 5 yards per reception. I don't think
you can't take out that one play. He's a deep threat. He's fast. That's what he does. Take out Robbie Anderson's one play. Then he had 40 yards.
Exactly.
Is that what you want to do?
I'm just saying. I don't think Henry Ruggs was dominating the game.
Henry Ruggs is going to be a really good player.
I think Josh Jacobs dominated the game. I don't think Henry Ruggs was.
I didn't say he dominated the game. I said he could have dominated the game.
I don't think he was dominating that first quarter.
He had 55 yards receiving. He also had 2 rushes for 11 yards. We couldn't stop him in the first quarter and a half, or however long it was until he got hurt. Tell me we stopped him.
I think we could have stopped Josh Jacobs. I think you were completely wrong.
Josh Jacobs.
has.
You just said we couldn't stop Josh Jacobs.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm talking about Henry Ruggs. I'm not talking about Josh Jacobs.
Again, I'm saying that Josh Jacobs was the guy who was dominating the first 2 quarters anyways. And
Josh Jacobs dominated the whole game.
Exactly. I don't think Henry Ruggs dominated that.
In terms of the passing game, Henry Ruggs was a dominant player until he got hurt, luckily, because otherwise he would have just continued. We just talked about how bad the secondary was.
Yeah, it is bad. I mean, just looking over this, 22 out of 30, 239 yards, and a touchdown, Derek Carr. I mean, I know he likes to dip and dunk, but we couldn't stop him. 7 incompletions.
Yeah, and like you said, a couple of those were just throwaways.
Yeah.
Because he was getting pressured. Devonte Booker for the Raiders also looked pretty good in limited action, but every time he got the ball, he made something happen.
Yeah.
Again, poor rushing defense for the Panthers. I hate to keep harping on the negative here, but Tahir Whitehead was sort of terrible. Definitely a huge downgrade for Luke Kuechly, as we knew he would be. What do you think about Jeremy Chin?
I mean, he has 8 total tackles, 7 by himself, but he had no splash plays. I mean, I was really hoping for that big play from him. I know he rushed or he hurried Derek Carr a couple times, but overall decent for a rookie out there starting, but he did not make the big plays as I was expecting. Same with Brian Burns. I saw one hurry.
He chased Derek Carr one time.
And that was it.
Or got up there, yeah. Yeah, I thought Chin looked okay. The only thing that I didn't like that I saw from him a lot was he sort of waited for the offensive player to come to him before he tackled. He didn't really seem to be like stepping up to meet the rusher or whoever it was a couple of times. I'll have to go back and kind of look at it more to be sure. But again, like you said, no huge exciting plays from him. Again, his first game ever. There's no preseason for these guys. So Jeremy Chin, Troy Pride, Derek Brown, all these guys, this is their first taste of the NFL. So not going to be too harsh on them here.
No.
And again, also Matt Rule's first game in the NFL. Joe Brady's first time running an offense in the NFL. Phil Snow's first time running a defense in the NFL. Chase Blackburn, we know about him. Special teams wasn't great today.
Now, there is one player on penalties. Special teams I liked, Pharaoh Cooper.
Pharaoh Cooper looked good.
Yeah, it felt nice to have a return man where I got excited to return. I was like, hey, he has a chance to break this. At least he's making moves, trying to get something happen. Yeah, nothing broke this time, but he got good field position. Most of the times he got the ball. I'm excited because I feel like one of these can break. That's something we really haven't had much of lately.
When's the last time that you had 6, kick and punt returns in a game for the Panthers? Like most of the time they're fair catching. They're letting the ball go out of the end zone. I agree. I thought Pharaoh Cooper was pretty exciting every time he touched the ball. He, almost broke things. Keeping on the special teams, Joey Sly had one ugly extra point. But other than that, 3 for 3 on field goals, and he hit his next extra point.
I don't get that. How do you drill these 50-yard kicks between the uprights and you just don't? Again, he's a professional. I can't go out there and kick a 35-yard field goal, but how do you miss that? That should be your bread and butter.
I know, but it happened. I mean, we see more. Last year, we saw more extra points missed across the NFL than I can remember. Like they were missing them left and right. Wasn't just Joey. Was hoping that he'd be perfect in this game, but I thought he came back and he nailed a couple of field goals after he missed that extra point. So luckily, it didn't seem to shake him too much. But good game from Joey. Let's just sort of check out Gross Matos, a 0. I mean, didn't do anything in this game. Obata had a couple of tackles, which is nice.
I was going to say, Obata I saw make a couple plays when he was in there. I didn't see him out there all that much, but I thought I got a tackle for a loss, and they don't have it listed. So
they don't have it listed. They have Derek Brown with a tackle for a loss, the only one for the Panthers in the day. Although I thought I saw them stuff
I think we got
Jacobs a couple of times.
Yeah.
So not sure what that's all about.
Because like I said, I thought it was Obata, but I could be mistaken. It may have been just a no gain that he made a good play on.
I want to move back to Teddy for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I was pleasantly surprised by his legs.
Me too.
His ability to scramble in the pocket and throw, or move around in the pocket and throw, and then also scramble when the need arose. He looked pretty good, and he took a hit, which was nice to see. Popped right up from that. I don't think he's going to lead the team in rushing, Cam did for years and years and years. But it's nice to have that option.
He had a lot better mobility than I was expecting.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I didn't watch his 5 starts last year or anything, but he had a lot more mobility than I expected. After that knee injury, I expected him to be pretty much in the pocket and not move. He could do a little bit of play action and read option there.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by that, and I sort of hope that they maybe incorporate that a little more into the offense. I don't want him to get hurt. He doesn't need to be doing Cam designed runs all the time, but
no.
I wouldn't mind seeing some bootlegs, things like that, sort of safe runs that could potentially buzz. He's got some wheels on him. So, and
he had made one nice really run pass in the first half. I remember he hit DJ Moore. He was scrambling and buying some time, and DJ Moore got open. It's kind of a dangerous play because it almost was intercepted at the same time. But then,
yeah, that's another thing. I 2 or 3 throws that probably should have been intercepted from him that he sort of got lucky that they weren't. But overall, I thought he had a good game for his first game in a Panthers uniform. I thought it was pretty good, and we can't harp on that enough. Like, these guys haven't had real game experiences with each other yet, so they didn't have that third preseason game where you kind of work the kinks out. This is the work the kinks out game. So, any other major thoughts before we sort of get into heroes and zeros, things like that?
Christian McCaffrey's still the man.
Still awesome. Yeah. And he's going to be my hero for this game. So for those of you new to the podcast, new to the YouTube channel, we do heroes and zeros for each game. Last year we just renamed it the Christian McCaffrey Hero Award because he got it every game. So we're going to start off just with a clean slate this year, but I am giving Christian McCaffrey the Hero of the Game award. Over 120 total yards, 2 touchdowns. Once they gave him the ball, he started making the offense move. So he has my hero today.
I would give it to him too, but I'm trying to be a little bit different here.
Okay.
I'm going to go Robbie Anderson. With that one big play, making that player miss, the Panthers had a chance to win this game. 6 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown. We needed that to blow the top off that defense. It finally happened. Great start as a Panther.
Yeah, it's good to see that he and Teddy have a connection. Of course, they played together in New York for a season. So it's good to see that they still kind of keep that connection. They have more of a connection than he has with anybody else on the team, I guess you could say. All right, so let's go to zeros. I am unfortunately going to give it to Gross Matos just because, he got the starter. He got the start as a rookie. I was sort of at least hoping to see him make something happen. Pressure the quarterback one time would have been nice. He gets my 0 today.
Zeros.
You got some options, Jim.
I've got quite a few options. Anybody on the defensive line, except I think KK and Derek actually had a solid game. Most of the runs were to the outside, so I don't think those two could get to him.
Not a lot of big runs up the middle, at least.
No.
Yeah.
I'm going to give it to Tahir Whitehead. He knew this offense. He didn't seem prepared for it. He gave up that big pass interference that extended that drive that put them up. So I'm going to give it to Tahir Whitehead.
Yeah, that's a good one. I definitely considered him. Yeah, gosh, I miss Luke. I miss Luke so much. So our beer bet of the week was over under 3.5 turnovers. It was definitely under, so congratulations that you were up 1-0 in the beer bets of the week.
Woohoo!
In terms of bold predictions, I predicted that Robbie Anderson would have over 100 yards and a
Mm-hmm.
touchdown, and he had over 100 yards and a touchdown. So,
and I had
I
two
got
and a
that
half
one.
sacks for Brian Burns, and I did not get anywhere close to that.
You could have said 2.5 sacks for the Panthers, and you still wouldn't have gotten close to that. Oh, you could have had 2.5 sacks for the entire game, and you wouldn't have gotten close to that.
I mean, I guess I should have thought about the Raiders are a very quick pass offense, but still, man, I was expecting to get something out of them.
I know. It's a bummer. All right, well, we've got Tampa Bay coming up next week, so they're playing right now.
Overall, I want to add a little new thing. Overall, if you want to give this team a letter grade on this game, what would you give them?
C+.
Okay, that's exactly what I'd give them.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't know what this team was. And C+, I think, is a good anomer. I mean, 34-30. The defense has got to get better. It has to get better.
Yeah.
Offense, just, do a couple tweaks. I think you're going to be a top-tier offense. You can be really good.
They were a few plays away from winning this game, and I would have categorized that as sort of a steal if they had won this game, because I think that they were definitely overmatched in terms of
a Christian McCaffrey carry away from at least coming close to winning the game.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, a few plays away from kind of stealing this game, but overall better than I feared. I'll say that. I hoped for a win. I obviously predicted a win. I thought that we would kick the season off with a win here, because coming up, it's going to be tough to grab one. I'm just kind of looking at the schedule here. The Falcons in week 5 might be our first real shot at a win after this game. But overall, pleasantly surprised. And I think if they can start from here as their baseline, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to produce this year.
Yeah, we've got to get better, and that's fine. This is week 1 with a whole new roster. You got to think of it. Do you remember how bad the Dolphins were last year at the beginning of the season? I mean, they were getting blown out. And by mid-season, towards the end, they started winning games and getting better. And that's what I'm hoping for this team. First of all, I'm glad we're not as bad as the Dolphins were at the beginning of the last year. But eventually this team's going to gel. That's what I'm expecting from this team. This defense is going to start playing better. 4 rookies started. And then our starting cornerback, Dante Jackson, went out with injury and didn't return. I mean, so, yeah, and that's a weakness already on the team. So I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I don't know if this is sort of one of those deals where the Panthers aren't expected to compete for the playoffs this season. And we're kind of all buying into that, I think. Well, we should all buy into that. We're not all buying into that, but we should all buy into that.
Not against some of our Twitter followers.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that they should go out and trade for help at corner or anything like that. I think we should just roll with the young guys and see what happens. They did re-sign TJ Green to the practice squad. So, in terms of corner, if Jackson is out, I would expect him to be called up onto the active roster. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if this is our baseline, if this is where we're starting from, then man, halfway through the season, I think we should be competing for wins against good teams.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Real quick, anything jump out at you from any of the other games? Cam had a really nice debut for the Pats.
Washington won against Philadelphia. I personally was very excited that the Jacks beat the Indianapolis Colts, how much people thought the Colts were going to compete for that division, and I really didn't see it that much. But
yeah, a couple of surprises from the early games, especially Washington beating Philadelphia. Chicago and Detroit turned out to be a really good game. A lot of people had Detroit winning that one. Baltimore, it's either same old Cleveland or Baltimore is really good, and I think it's probably both.
I was going to say, I think it's a mixture of both because
Buffalo came out and looked really good. Of course, it was against the Jets, so we'll see when they play a real football team.
JETSS.
JETSSUCK. So, all right. Well, as of right now, Tampa's up 7-0 on New Orleans. Not that that matters, but Tom Brady has a rushing touchdown. Doing his best Cam Newton impression. And that's
You
about
can
it.
rush for one. I can rush for one too.
Yeah. We'll be back, I guess, middle of the week.
Thursday.
Yep, for our preview. We'll definitely get that up on YouTube. We did not get our preview for this past week up on YouTube, but we will definitely get this one up. So
yeah, I was personal reasons I really could not do it.
Oh, let's go into that.
Work and baby and getting 5 hours of sleep a night. Yeah, that was it.
Not as juicy as I was hoping. All right. All right, everybody. Well, we'll see you next week or, in the middle of this week. And until then, keep pounding.